gonna give it like a quick second, see if anyone joins, but we're about to go live for a off the cuff episode of Staked Podcast East Corner. The way this is done, the way it's always been done, is that I record these on my YouTube channel as East Corner, and then I fork them over to another YouTube channel called Staked Podcast, and then I upload them to all the podcast streaming, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff, right? So that's how I've always done Staked Podcast. Episode 22, dedicated to my father. You can see Lalo there in the background. Lalo's always been a special guest ever since I started East Corner, Staked Podcast, whatever you want to call it. I started this I haven't recorded one of these episodes like this style in a very long time, but if you are a watcher, if you're viewing this video or listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume you're either someone who watches Staked Podcast or you are someone in the Decred community, because these two are definitely intertwined, and I think that they're those are the primary people who I could imagine watching this. And anyone else, welcome. There's a lot of background to this podcast that I'm not going to explain. There's 22 episodes. You guys can go watch these and catch up on, where we're at. But this episode, I'm going to be talking about, just kind of give you guys an overview of what I want to do. I want to talk about myself for a while and do an introduction / background, update, because we haven't done an episode in a while. And then I'm going to focus on Decred. And then I'm going to focus on some things in the NFT world, and kind of where I'm taking this channel and where I see things going and how Staked Podcast is going to fit into all this. The primary purpose that motivated this, sudden, off the cuff, just live stream, was Lalo being such a good boy. And also there's been a lot of conversation in the Decred community around a recent proposal by Amar that was voted down. And so actually, let's do as we always do. And this is really cool. For the first time on a live stream, I'm going to be able to share my screen. So let's just go ahead and do that. Pumped about that. As we do on Stake Podcast, we always go over the Decred Block Explorer. I have it pulled up here. So that's kind of dope. Hash rate is up 54% in the past 30 days. The difficulty on 312 petahashes per second. Proof of work reward is at 7.05 Decred. Look, guys, I haven't done one of these in so long. The vote reward has gone down to 0.7 Decred, and I think last time I did one of these, we were in the 0.9. So that just shows you that constant adjustment, that steady deflation, as opposed to the sudden drop deflation that you see in Bitcoin is just it's very powerful essentially. And current ticket price, 214. Yeah, we're going to get very real. And I kind of do just want to keep this up for a little bit. Actually, I'll bring this back up when we focus on Decred. Because before I focus on Decred, I'm going to focus on just myself. So let's get into that. So Stake Podcast. I think I started it when I started law school. And I haven't made an episode in a while just because... Well, I had life things going on. Obviously, I'm still in law school, and I work as a Decred contractor as well. I work as a podcaster for the DAO, and I get paid to do that. So I've put most of my, podcasting free time efforts towards that endeavor. That allows me, to do things like take care of my son. You can see right there, feed myself, get through law school. I do that I take out loans to go to law school. I didn't have at the time I never had $100,000 just sitting around. Although that's not necessarily true anymore because, NFT investing and cryptocurrency investing has taken off over the last 3 months. And I've had some successes in that area. And I have videos and things coming in regards to that very soon. I've wanted to be quiet about all that just because I've been in the course of custody litigation, just to be quite honest, which is a tough thing to really talk about. And it's only something that I talk about now because things are slowing down. My emotions are not as deep in it. I've kind of adjusted to a new reality. But when I first started Stake Podcast, I had this super beautiful book collection behind me. And as you can see, behind me today is a crib and a bed. Because when I started my Decred contracting position in January, I was living in a different place, and Lalo, who's 15 months now, I guess he was probably 7 months at the time. Where am I going with this? Yeah, so I was living somewhere, and then in March, me and my son's mom, we split up. So I moved, and this like just created a lot of chaos for me, right? And it really threw me off. I had to like kind of very much like focus narrowly, and it became about surviving, honestly. And that survival just meant focusing on school and focusing on my son and focusing on myself and my own mental health. And so like, I have a lot of different passions, but mental health is not necessarily a passion, but something I care a lot about. Something I think like just not discussed enough, especially in the Black community, especially in the criminal justice system as well. But aside from all of that, here we are. It's November 6th, 2021. I don't even think I put out a timestamp. I usually do that. We are at proposed block 604,776 on the Decred mainnet. And interesting times for sure, because recently there was a proposal that was rejected in regards to some marketing efforts. Someone had suggested for about a fee of 12,000 retainer that they would, create some writings in regards to Decred. And there's been a lot of conversations even on Decred in depth with myself and other guests that I've brought on, whether it be Chris Dannon or Coin Artist, talking about this like marketing need, right? And I've been thinking so much about this and like trying to think about like what is Decred's why, right? And like it's just so funny to me, honestly. It's just to be quite honest, because look, like 99.9% of humans still don't really understand Bitcoin. And even the ones that like are like, starting to put money into it now, starting to get into the space, like they don't see it as money. Like they don't see it as money. They don't see it the same way that I see it, that I think many of my viewers see it, and they see it as an investment. And I think that like what we're undergoing, some of you all may also know, I'm in the real estate industry, and I think what we're undergoing, and I think real estate is just the most interesting market that demonstrates this, is a complete repricing of all assets in the world based off a new global monetary standard store of value that is Bitcoin, and like this is like very complicated for people to hear. If people like get really emotional about it, and like, yeah, that's what's happening, like real estate across the globe will be repriced. I was talking to a friend the other day who said like, we can't even imagine. She said like, we can't imagine Elon Musk's net worth. Like it's so big, it's unimaginable. And I was like, yeah, probably so, because the denominator is so fucked up. Like whenever you can print money, like, yeah, you're right. It's very hard to like measure something that's constantly inflating. And so, people are starting to understand inflation though, I think. I think they're seeing it at the gas station. I think they're seeing it in the grocery store. I think they're seeing it in their gas and electricity and heating bills. Like, and technology is a deflationary thing, like the cost of computers, the cost of hardware, your iPhone is getting better, like in like relatively a lot better relative to how much it's appreciating in cost, and like but other things are going up, like meat. I don't know if you guys buy steaks. I buy steaks a lot. I like to eat steak. And like, I think like just within the last year, I feel like steaks have gone up 15-20%, just like guessing. Right. But, yeah. So anyways, I'm saying all this because, I'll be renewing my contract for Decred soon, and having seen the recent proposal fail, it doesn't bother me at all, because when I never was doing this for like, Decred, I wasn't doing this for treasury funds. I've always been doing this like for myself and like my own, like just intellectual interest. But, I'm definitely going to like, I think maybe transition into saying that regardless of how that renewal goes, I'm very happy for Stake Podcast and like the pause and hiatus that has been. I think that the outcome of my renewal will allow me to either refocus on staked more or continue to have it as more of a side project podcast until, because I really do want to focus on Decred, and like this is the perfect segue. And let's just kind of like, I'm going to be sharing just kind of like a lot of my general thoughts. And let me share my screen. If I could share it. No, I'm not even going to share my screen. I think I'm just going to look at the Explorer myself. I want to start with my narrative of Decred, right? Because this episode is dedicated to my father, and I think it's very fitting that Lalo's here, and all of these pieces are kind of coming together at this time because he just hit his head. He's okay. He's a tough guy. When I first started investing in Decred, this was in 2018, 2019, I was working very, very bad jobs. Like essentially like minimum wage, $12 an hour type of jobs, very tough, very labor intensive. And I always, I had read about wealth and I'd been around wealth and I'd seen people who had money. And I knew that like one of the key elements of investing and like making money was just putting a little bit away. And so I would take 10% of all my paychecks every 2 weeks and I'd buy a little bit of Bitcoin and I'd buy a little bit of Decred and I'd buy a little bit of, other crypto assets and digital assets and maybe buy an NFT here and there. And I did that for about 3 years, and maybe about 4 years. My employment has never been extremely steady. I'm not a very good employee, admittedly. But I say all this because Decred had been one of those projects, I'd always just put a little bit of money in because I had this like understanding of a global store of value that like 99% of people still don't understand. They really just don't. And that's okay. And that's because it's inevitable, really. It is inevitable. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. I mean, guys, like look at the news we're talking about, El Salvador accepting this as a currency, Bitcoin ETFs, just statements after statements by politicians and regulators and high profile investors. And this is here to stay. And I having this foundational understanding of Bitcoin that like, I think most of my viewers and listeners have, Decred to me still stands like so outside of every other crypto asset project. And distinguishes itself because of the principles, because of the way that it was, designed. And as someone who never had a lot of money, but like was always willing to like do the right thing by himself, by the future version of himself, by the future version of, his offspring that were not even at the time. And it was just like saving money. And instead of putting that money in a bank account, or in, a mutual fund, I decided to put that in Decred. And so like, obviously my interest is like deeply aligned and I have like, obviously, it's like talking your own book sort of thing, but it is definitely, and cryptocurrencies are honestly almost like religions of a sort, but it's like, it's either you believe in the need either you believe in the need for the technology or you don't. If you have an understanding of why Bitcoin is needed, if you don't have that understanding, you'll never understand Decred. And if you don't understand Bitcoin enough in terms of its design, and if you don't understand it in terms of its history, you'll never understand Decred. But if you understand Bitcoin, this is the reason why true Bitcoin maximalists really don't like the project. Like they don't like Decred because it truly is a threat. But it doesn't have to be, right? Because like we don't like, to me, I'm an investor. Like I'm not emotionally attached to these things necessarily, or at least I try not to be. I try to view these things objectively, but I'm also just trying to maximize like returns. Like I'm trying to put my money where I think it's going to go. I like to invest in a style that means I'm going to put money somewhere that I'm not going to take it out for about 5 to 10 years at minimum, And it's like, if you don't have a 5 to 10 year time horizon in the digital asset space, you'll never make it. You're in GMI. And if you understand Bitcoin, then you understand that Decred separates itself in, at least to me, there's one primary key feature. That is privacy. That is a way that is a blockchain that is just like has satisfactory, decentralization, a lot of full nodes, a lot of people verifying compared to other blockchains. Like people don't understand. Have you ever tried to go download the full state of Ethereum onto, your local hardware computer? You can't do it. You have to have, at least a sophisticated understanding of technology, like computers and IT. And, like the ability to like run a Decred node, like the ability to have a full backup of the blockchain distributed across computers across the globe, Decred separates itself from Bitcoin in that there is a blockchain that has adequate privacy, and I am a huge privacy advocate. I have I have a legal interest in this from a constitutional, perspective. But I truly believe in financial privacy and individuals' right to privacy. And there is no other blockchain. Monero, Zen, Zcash, like they just don't compare in terms of the trade-offs that you have to make. And the trade-off is I have a blockchain in Decred that is like, it's verifiable. I can actually go, like we can audit the supply. We know that you can't audit you can't, prune the blockchain of Monero in the same way you can Decred. There are limitations in the privacy, and let's not even get into Zcash and like the privacy mix set and the non-mix set and the even just the sketchiness about the initial setup. And I don't even like how like comfortable the corporation moves amongst regulators, truthfully. And like Decred is like this secret ninja that's like, it's just building something that's indestructible and that like literally can't be fucked with. And like it's allowing all these other cryptocurrencies to like kind of take the heat in the mean terms, like the IRS in the, the United States government, they're freaking out over Monero. They are freaking out over Monero. And I don't know where I was going about this. Let me take a pause, sip of coffee. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I guess the way I used to run Steak Podcast is I used to do these for Decred tips. I might put the tip address back up there just for shits and gigs. See how many old time Steak Podcast people listen to this. If you're an old head, if you're anyone who's ever donated, honestly, just go ahead and like do it again, just to like let me know you heard this. Like even just 0.1 DCR. Like, and look, guys, those tips that people were tipping me back when Decred was like $20. And Decred's $100 now, like, and people are freaking out in the community. And this is like part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, is because the peak despair that I hear and feel within the community has me so tremendously bullish, guys, because like it's about, I love it when the infighting guys, and we're going to get into some of this stuff and what I think about the proposal, but like this is an experiment in like technology democracy, and it's so interesting to like watch people's emotions play out in regards to how the Politeia discussion went versus how the vote outcome actually went, and the different channels and the different areas where people are boisterous. I have like this like unique perspective on the DAO and the community now, like as a contractor, seeing how it works, seeing how it operates. I've literally never met anyone who works for Decred, and I've obviously FaceTime or like live streamed with a handful of developers. Outside of those people, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't tell you where they live. I couldn't tell you who they are. I couldn't tell you what they do, what they look like, how many kids they have, where their parents are. I couldn't tell you anything about them. And that's very, very powerful. Like other than being an avatar on a screen, that it's digital coordination. And this is why this idea of DAOs and my legal interest in DAOs is just so tremendously powerful. And I haven't taken corporations yet, but I can already understand that like the DAO as an entity will need very specific legalized, like it needs to be handcrafted in terms of liability, in terms of how these things are even like categorized in terms of, who's liable, who can be sued, who can't be, like there's just so many questions, coordination. But these DAOs, they also do interesting things in terms of agency. They do interesting things in terms of fiduciary duties. They create interesting questions in terms of risk and management, and I'm just like super interested in exploring these, and like Decred like being, in my mind, I think someone put it as like a base layer DAO or a layer 1 DAO. Like I said this in an episode with the other two attorneys on Decred in depth, Gabriel Shapiro and Stephen Pally. They came on an episode with me, and I made this comment, and I think it might have offended Gabriel, but I said that Decred is the one true DAO. And I still kind of mean this, to be honest. And I think that the better understanding that I can articulate is that Decred is like the only layer 1 DAO like protocol that I'm aware of that is like fully functioning. Like, it works. Like there's, it's been running for how many years? People are transacting in this stuff. People are like putting actual resources towards mining it, and, sunken cost and investing in mining hardware and such. And because people still don't like understand money, and they still don't see a need for Bitcoin, they still don't see that value of like that digital pristine collateral that like you can take anywhere and that's unseizable, unconfiscatable. It's like without jurisdictional like control. Without getting into all that, with Decred, if you don't see a need for an online confiscatable digital store of value, you'll never understand the value proposition of adaptability. You'll never understand the value proposition of privacy. You'll never understand the value proposition of custodial yield. You won't understand the value proposition of non-third party exchanges, like being able to exchange without like a rent seeking, like third party trying to like take value out of that transaction. You'll never understand the value of, and the reason I'm still so incredibly bullish on Decred stems from the people. It stems from the emotions that I feel on Twitter from the developers who slave away and work and grind and have their hearts into this project, regardless of how no one cares about the market. Like people are still like building. That's what we're doing here. We're building. Like this is a community of builders. This is a community of people who like understand and care. And the intelligence is very attractive in and of itself. The willingness to have like true intellectual discourse. I was very saddened to see like how there was no negative comments in the Politeia thing. And then it was like, the vote is negative and it's, by a pretty, let's go look. Actually, I'm going to go share screen. Let's do that because we can do that now, right? We can share screen. Lalo's being such a good boy too. Yeah, I really never honestly know how to spell Politeia. And this is how it works, guys. Like people don't even realize. Like this is a pretty big amount of no. And like when I first saw this, I was scared because I was like, look, I'm up for renewal. And, marketing is not like what people really want to spend the treasury on. And if you guys don't understand how the treasury works, you don't understand the value of, being able to fund the protocol, like Bitcoin struggles for funding. You don't understand like how like venture capital interest, like pervert the outcome of the direction of the protocol, and like it truly should be the stakeholders, the people who hold the coins, the people who like have the skin in the game and put the risk. And like Sometimes I do wonder if that's like extremely just self-serving though, you know? Like we're essentially like creating this new technocracy, and it's like it's unfortunate to like those who like don't really understand and don't have the education and don't have the, but it's also at the same time that's always how life has been. That's like kind of how like the world works and markets work, and like there's not man is not equal in their ability to understand and learn and be able to like innovate, And so that was just a little bit of a tangential thing. Man, I have so many interest in this whole space. But anyways, yeah, so I see this, and you come look at the comments, right? And it's like everyone's mostly saying just good stuff. Great assets community. I voted yes, and then it's just like a resounding no. And so people were like, well, what is that? That's, I'm going to switch back over to me. People were like, well, there's a problem. Something's off. And then I did think about it. I'm pretty sure Amar has put up, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's put up a proposal before. And that was like about a riding and using treasury funds for riding. And one of my friends reached out to me, and he was like, what do you, like, why is this getting voted down? And, I tweeted out kind of jokingly, but maybe honestly not jokingly. Like, I really don't know, because the interesting thing about a DAO and about like the stakeholder like mechanism of like skin in the game is that you never really know like what someone wants and why they want it. But if they've locked up the Decred and they have the Decred, they're going to have to they're willing to take the risk of the consequences of their vote. And whether that be they destroy the value of the asset that they're holding, or, they think that maybe they think they're making the right decision. Maybe they think that like the money is not well spent at that time in that location. I could definitely understand. And what's so interesting about like this DAO is the come and go nature of DAO, right? Because like one thing we talk about in the law in terms of like corporations is dissolution. Like, how do you leave? How do you retain the assets that you brought to the partnership or to the, limited liability company? How do you take your value back whenever you want to leave? Under what conditions can you leave? Can you just like take the ball and go home? And with like that's something that's unique with DAOs, is that like at any point you can sell the asset. If you want out, you can get out, and you don't have to ask. And you don't have to be sorry about it either. And the people who you left, like either they're wrong or you're wrong. And Coin Artist, in her recent episode of Decred in Depth, she announced that she was willing to disclose that she had sold her stake in Decred, and I had thought a lot about that. Humans, and this goes back to sort of my readings of Mises and human action, and I've done I never go back and actually add the like little drop up things, but maybe one day I'll have an assistant who actually goes back and watches these, and I can say, look, add the link to the discussion about the Mises book, right? And this idea of human action is that when Coin Artist first got involved in Decred, she was a contractor, and she had earned a substantial amount of value in terms of, here are your Decred tokens, here's your DCR. And she staked, she was able to participate in the governance. She worked to build the community. She had built a lot of value. And she held that value on for some time. And at some point, because the individual ultimately has to weigh and assess their own calculations in terms of their own desires, like my desires and Coin Artist's desires are not the same. And, someone who's, Kathy Wood's desires and my desires are not the same. Checkmate's desires and my desires are not the same. Jake Yokampayat's desires and my desires are not the same. But what Decred allows is that after you can be passive. You can say, hey, look, I like this. I want the store value. I like what this provides. I like the service that Decred provides, right? and the service of privacy and digital global store of value. It's all those things. I like that service, and so I just want to hold it, and I just want to stake it because I'm going to hold it for a long time. But like the moment that you decide to sell, that's okay, because the market is this place of people who want the asset and don't want the asset, and like that those needs and desires change over time. I may decide right now, as I sit here with a substantial amount of Decred holdings, that I'm going to continue to hold on to the Decred. But in 5 years, or whenever I'm ready to buy a home rather than rent a room, I might decide that I want to sell a portion of that Decred because I put in the value, I put in the time, I took the risk, and like that's an okay thing essentially. And to get into, I'm trying to I just have so many thoughts, and I know I like this stream of consciousness kind of rants. Some people really like them, some people don't, but I just have to do it because I have to just get the ideas off my chest. And I think this moment in time that we live in, look, I'm going to bring up the chart right now. Lalo's being such a good boy. I'm going to bring up the chart because I think about the history of myself, right? And when I first started investing in Decred, here we go. And let's zoom out. So we got the chart here. I'm on CoinGecko. This is the lifetime of Decred. We are here. And look, I'm not a chartist. I've never like tried to be a technical analysis, but I have been around crypto Twitter and been around investment enough that I have a general understanding of like, what these people are thinking when they're looking at charts. And mostly to me, I look at charts to tell me a story. Like I feel like this chart is telling me a story. I look at it and it's clearly telling you a story. Like, what is this? That's I have an answer to that. I'm asking rhetorically, but this double peak in 2017, 2018, what was going on there? What was going on in the time and in the psychology of humans and the market? What was the narrative? This was right around the time that Ethereum Classic had split, mid to late July 2017. Then you go into the 2018 year, and now people are talking about governance and people are talking about these things, and then we just bleed off for years. And this is around the time when I get in, right? I had to have started buying right around here, truthfully. And November 2018. Yep, that sounds just about right. And just kept $20, $20 all throughout the rest of 2018. $20 a week, maybe skip a week because I'm, in crunch, need money. Kept another $20, another $15, $10 here. Doing that all throughout 2019. We go in 2020, still doing it. Find out I'm about to become a dad, still doing it. Still just buying. And then here we are in 2021. We see this huge run up to $250. And now we've been correcting ever since that run up, which correlates with the run up in Bitcoin, which was in, April of 2021. A lot has been going on in this market. We're gonna switch back now. I'm just glad we had that little moment together. A lot has been going on, and Decred launched in 2016, so it's 5 years old. It is a 5-year-old project. Me personally, because of the decisions I made, I'm doing very well in my investment with Decred. I have no problems. I have no compunctions because I was buying during this time when no one was fucking paying attention and no one cared, and it was like, and this is around the time that Coin Artist is selling, she had extracted her value. She was done. And like, she can sell those to someone else who has more conviction like myself, and that's okay. I'm happy to use that because to me, Decred's not about me. It's about him. And like the decisions I've been trying to make as an investor, as a young, man in my 20s, it's been about delayed gratification. And you don't have to have a lot to be able to build something very big. You just have to be disciplined, and you have to actually do, You have to be disciplined, and you have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to put a little bit away. But people like to buy dumb stuff, and like they like to buy dumb stuff. I could have gone and bought it, I drive a Ford Focus. I drive a 2018 Ford Focus. Paid it cash, when I bought it. And I could have gone out and bought a new car a long time ago. Oklahoma real estate market is hot. And and cheap. I could have gone and taken out a 30-year loan, at a 2.5% interest rate. I could have done that. I could live in a house, but I decided to rent. I decided to do other things so that I could put money into crypto, so that I could put money into NFTs. I made the sacrifices, and I had obviously a lot of help from my family, my mom and dad, who I love, and my sister, who is my, my rock, my best friend. So no shout out to, family, truthfully. And, I'm so bullish on Decred because I understand that most people still just don't understand. They don't understand Bitcoin. They don't understand markets. They don't understand money. They don't understand liquidity. They don't understand the technology. They don't understand decentralization. They just don't understand these things. And there's a reason that Decred attracts all the smartest people in the room. And like I've definitely studied history. Studied the history of technology enough to know that like the best technology doesn't always win out. But like the way I've been seeing this development as of recent. Yeah, I know. Make a guest appearance. Say, hey. Yeah. Say, OU Law. Yeah, you got the OU Law onesie on. We're seeing some comments now. One word, sadly, centralization. Carlos' question, do you think there are any other cryptocurrencies out there which have more potential than Decred? I don't know. Possibly, possible. That's the other thing too, is like, guys, like we just simply don't know, and like, that's okay to say, like, we don't have to know. Like, it's okay. If Decred fails, it's okay. That is okay. But me, I don't think it's going to fail. I obviously am willing to like, put my money where my mouth is and like have a lot of my, my personal net worth invested in it. And it's like, no, I look at that chart and I see something that's about to blow up. That's what I see. I feel like I see something that's ready to blow up. And I feel like I know there are very few to no custodial solutions for Decred. I feel like I know the major U.S. exchanges do not list Decred. Most cryptocurrency investors are in the United States, or not, maybe not most, but like there's a lot of purchasing power and like a lot of investment power and capital that comes from the United States. Like just the household investor, the retail investor can't access Decred still, and like hardly, and institutions can't access Decred still, but it's still on their radar. Like Cathie Wood is aware of Decred and has spoken highly of essentially 3 cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Decred, and like, the way I'm starting to see this space, and now this will be a good time, we're going to kind of just segue, because I do have a renewal for my contract with Decred that I'll be working on. And, I have finals coming up, so don't expect that until, the winter time. But my contract ends in December, and so I need to renew by January. And I've been watching the ticket action, and I think this is the message really for the Decred thing. And then we're going to move into, more Stake podcast and what the other things I'm interested in. I work for the protocol, and I would consider myself to be like the average retail investor. That's who I see myself as. Clearly. And I do understand myself to be like, a smart guy and someone who's, able to discern truth from bullshit and, able to have enough of a technological understanding about like how these things work. And like how technology might possibly evolve, and how I should allocate like my money in accordance with that. But I truly believe at the heart of this movement in this investment space, I do see this as a renaissance of sorts. And I see that at the heart of this is money. And like if we lose focus on the money, it's all nice like to have like Ethereum and smart contracts and NFTs and DeFi and D-Law now, decentralized law, and whatever else is going to come out. It's all nice and good to have these things, but like they don't matter without money. Like if people don't have like a way to measure time and to measure like energy and efforts and like a way to like store their value in their hard work properly, like through a mechanism that like aligns proper incentives via scarcity, because scarcity is like the key element of like mankind and economics and society. And money is at the heart, and that's why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin. That's why I'm, a Bitcoin majoritarian. I still see myself as a Bitcoin majoritarian, like my portfolio reflects that. My long-term holdings, not my trading account. And I see like besides Bitcoin, like I see Decred as the next best thing, because I see, look, I don't know if it's going to be Lightning Network. I don't know if it's going to be, modular layer 0 blockchains or monolithic, sharded blockchains. And, I don't know if it's going to be Solana, Polkadot, Ethereum. I don't know who's going to win, but I know that I will allocate money. And my opinions are able to be changed at any time, but I'll like allocate my resources in accordance with the risks and the projected success of the project as I see it. And I see Decred as distinguishing itself from every other protocol, except in terms of the number of developers working on it. But who gives a shit about the number of developers? I care about the quality of the developers. And the quality of the developers on Decred is bar none. Like the other developers who go and like make these little apps on, I don't mean to be offensive. This is just true. Like it's cute that you go make an app on Ethereum, but like you can't do the same kind of programming that these consensus level developers can do. Sorry. And so, yeah, like Decred and Bitcoin attract the big brains. Lots of echo, sir. Okay, well, I'm sorry. That's really unfortunate. I hope it hasn't really been echoing this whole time. Thank you for sharing that. I'm kind of getting to the end. I do want to shift now. I get so animated. I get excited. To me, a lot of this is just kind of funny, right? Because if people understood still how early we are in the history of DAOs and NFTs and digital assets, don't get me wrong, technology is going to move rapidly, but guys, Decred is okay. And we don't know how things are going to evolve, but I do believe that it will be some kind of, I do believe in a multi-chain verse, I do believe in a need for a private store of value. I think that the Lightning Network is, going to fix itself out in like these other like smart contract blockchains, the Polkadots, Atoms, Ethereum. I think they'll solve their technological problems some way, somehow. But I think that in terms of me, because my denominator is Bitcoin, my denominator is Decred, like I'm worried about accumulating those things themselves. I'm not worried about the US dollar price of them, because those are my monies. And I see Yeah, I know. We're about to go. We're going to go to the Science Museum with Miguel, one of my classmates and Lalo's godfather, and very, very shortly. So I do want to wrap this up. He's probably been texting me. I don't remember where I was going with all that, but we're still so early. That's where I'm going. Like, we're still so early, and what we as a community need to be focused on is the young people, and we need to be focused on marketing is important. Like, your message, you have to get the word out. That is important. I believe we need to be focused on marketing to young people to get them to start, like, their brains are still malleable enough. Like, look, my niece, like, she gets Bitcoin, she's 7 years old. Like, Bitcoin and money, indistinguishable for her, because their brains are still so malleable. And, money isn't a green dollar bill for them. Like, that's weird, like, that's, how millennials used to, like, get mad when people had their checkbooks at the checkout line. You're like, oh my God, this old person has a checkout. Like, like, that's cash today. And very soon that will even be debit cards, because, like, you'll be expected to have it on your phone and, like, transact. And yeah, people, Visa, I forgot about that. Or was it MasterCard? One of the two. They're starting to accept crypto payments now. 2021 has been a wild year of news for cryptocurrencies. And history, I think, will tell that story. And I think people will, historians will look, we need to be focused on creating use cases for Decred. And I think that we're just not there yet in terms of the development, because I think the Lightning Network is not there in terms of its development. And I think that laps are the future. I do think laps are the future. I don't think dApps are the future. And so to that end, I'm just not worried. We do need to work on the messaging. We need to be patient. We're only on year 5, Lightning Network is still very, very infant. And people just need to be patient. And, like, I'm sorry, like, if you're worried about the price of Decred having gone from $250 to $150, and oh my God, like, you're in GMI. You're not going to make it anyways, is how I kind of feel. Like, this ride isn't for you. The people who are, like, holding and staking and voting and actually engaging in this project, so the reason I had to do this live stream is because I had to admit to the community that my voice right now as a coin holder of Decred does not matter, because I do not stake. I do not run my own full node. I am guilty of that. And look, my priorities right now are not set towards making that my number one priority. But it's like, I can't complain about the vote of something when I haven't taken the measures myself to get my coins off of a ledger and get them onto the Crediton and, like, actually start staking, and I work for the project, but I am just the average investor, like, I'm and so part of what you guys are going to see from me eventually is my journey of actually running my own full node. It may not even happen until after I graduate law school. I may have to wait, given the constraints of my living conditions and my life and my priorities. But it's like, you can't complain if you haven't actually done the work to secure, and vote. And so you just have to trust those people who are actually doing that, because those are the people who not only have the technical know-how to, like, take care of the protocol, but they also have the skin in the game. So that's my thoughts about Decred. Now, we're definitely getting towards the end here, because Lalo is probably hungry at this point. Yeah, let's see if he can. But I'm going to be releasing a video series about NFTs very shortly. I've been investing in EFTs for a long time. You guys can go back on my YouTube videos and check those out. Primarily in the gaming industry. I know gaming's hot right now. Like, I'm like OG with this. I really hate to sound that way, but I recently had, like, a lot of success in some of my earlier investments. And so you'll probably see a video about, how I made $500,000 investing in NFTs. And it's, like, not going to be the typical, like, how you do, like, I'm not flipping NFTs. I'm investing in this space, and I took the proceeds of that investment and put them into a bunch of other investments, because, like, again, long time horizons, guys. Like, I changed me and my son's life, like, with NFT investing, truthfully, like, I changed our lives and his and my lives. And but I'm smart enough to know that, like, you take that money and you reinvest it. You don't go blow it on dumb stuff. And so I've reinvested into more projects, things that I've been like very intellectually interested in, things that I've been, you know, just like socially interested in. Yeah, so you'll see like kind of a series of NFT videos. I'll just list them on this podcast. If you're actually this far in the podcast, you're like truly like you're high value. I bought a Mutant Ape. Y'all, I'm just gonna list the projects I'm in, you know, and then like some videos to cover in the future. But Gutter Cat Gang, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Metaverse Heroes, Pixel DAO, Chrome Squiggle DAO. What else? Meebits. Cool Cats. Superlative Secret Society. And I bought an Urbit star. Like a galaxy. I bought an Urbit galaxy. So very excited about Urbit. You know, the future of, you know, of Web 3 and Web 4, and you know, I also bought a couple of other things just in the space that I'm interested in. Not things I'm going to disclose, because the series on NFTs I think it's just going to be very fun. I think it's going to be like very good for my channel essentially, because like I own a lot of like the Mechaverse. Yeah, I'm a driver for a couple mechas. Obits. All right. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, so I've been having fun in the space. Been buying some things for Lalo. Around here we take the investment approach of we invest for our grandchildren. You know, that's how we do things. And so thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys. Martin, thank you. Fernando, thank you. Carlos, thank you. Harvey, thank you. Thank you all for watching and tuning in, and to the Decred community, to everyone, Stake Podcast community, to all the dorks out there. That's what we call ourselves on Stake Podcast, because, you know, I'm a dork. Lalo's a dork. Yeah. Stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.